hold on. Good morning.
Good morning.
And can you tell us who you are?
My name is Krista Smith, and I own Magnolia Ridge Farm and Gardens in High Point, North Carolina, Forsyth County.
Awesome. And how long have you been in this position or field?
So I have been farming part-time or as a hobby my whole life because I grew up in it. But recently, for about 3 years, have I been doing intensive small-scale urban farming.
Cool. And what is a typical work day like for you?
So a typical work day for me is making sure all the animals are fed, opening up the greenhouse, checking on all my plant seedlings, walking through the garden, making sure everything looks good, looking for pests and bugs, things like that. And then working on a project. So right now we're expanding our garden. So I'm amending soil and adding compost, building more garden beds, planting more, seeding more. We currently have baby chickens, so I'm dealing with cleaning out stalls. We have baby goats, so I'm bottle feeding some, moving chicken tractors. Sometimes, depending on the time of year, I'm in the kitchen canning up things. If it's market day, I get up early, load the vehicle, go to market. So my day can vary depending on what projects we're working on, but right now in spring it's a lot of gardening.
Awesome. And what do you like best and least about your job?
I like the freedom of kind of planning my day around nature and, going with the flow and the babies. I love the animal babies and little seedlings and seeds. Like, that's my favorite thing in the world, is to have coffee in my greenhouse with all my little seedlings and watch the goats play.
I'm right there with you. what led you to your current career?
So, in the past, I have a marketing degree, and I was a wedding photographer for 10 years, but I always gardened and cooked and made recipes and would blog about it. And during the pandemic, I was not able to work my regular job, and I fell back in love with the family farming and started spending more time doing that and with the family, and found my niche in chickens because I've always had an affinity for chickens, and started raising meat chickens and laying hens, and it just expanded from there. And I just decided that this is where my passion was at this stage of my life, and so I'm all in.
That's cool. And what type of interest, abilities, and skills would help a person to be successful in your occupation?
So with intensive small scale gardening, you really have to be organized. And you have to be very focused, because I do things a lot different than the traditional farmers, because I'm doing everything very intensively and putting plants very close range that you wouldn't normally do. So you have to stay on top of them. You have to stay on top of the weeding. You have to do a lot of land management and moving of animals, because you need to maintain their feed. So you can't just leave them on the same grass, because then they eat it all. So you have to move. So it's a constant daily organization. Also, the marketing skills come in handy, because that's how I built my business, is marketing online and social media. Being a people person and having communication skills is good, because I do a lot of sales in person at farmers markets. So there's a lot of things that people don't necessarily think about when you're working with animals and plants. But bookkeeping and being able to record how many seeds you used and how much it costs and how much you need to sell things for, how much quantity you're taking and the weight of things to sell to people, as well as just tracking all your information. So a lot of numbers and a lot of writing, a lot of recording, but also marketing and business, because you have to wear many hats and do everything yourself.
Cool. And what type of education, training, technical knowledge, or experience is necessary for what you do?
So an agricultural degree would be good. I do not have one, but I have taken a lot of classes and workshops through the agricultural department. You can take a lot of free workshops. You can take a lot of paid workshops, so you can earn a lot of certifications outside of a college type atmosphere. But like I said, I do have a marketing degree. So anything in marketing and business, I think, would also be beneficial. Anything in the animal industry, because you have to, kind of be your own vet, especially with chickens. There are not chicken vets. People do not pay to take a chicken to a vet. So you have to be able to do all of that yourself. So any of those type of skills are handy. Construction, mechanical, which I do not have. Thank goodness there are people in my life who have mechanical skills, because that is not me. So any of those.
Awesome. And how do you use math, reading, writing, business, technology, science, and foreign language skills in your daily work?
So I touched on that a little bit with some of the previous questions, but a lot of math skills when I'm figuring up how many seeds to start, and like how many pounds of food per person do you need to grow, and how much of that can you fit in a garden space. So when you're doing intensive gardening, you've got to know how much food you can produce in these smaller plots of land. So I have a 5,000 square foot garden, so I need to be able to grow enough food for probably 10 people in that amount of gardening. So you got to know what's going to give your highest yield, how much pound of food you can grow, that type thing, as well as dealing with the amount of feed for animals by weight, and then as well as when you're processing chickens, the weight of the end chicken, and how much you're going to sell that for per pound. So there's a lot of math that goes into it, a lot of reading and writing, especially when I need to research something that I'm unfamiliar with. traits of a plant, if it's going to do good in this area. A lot of science, because you need to watch the weather. You need to understand the different seasons and the zones and the soil chemical content to know if you've got too much nitrogen for a certain plant, that type thing. So a good base of all your subjects is going to be great. And then, of course, just dealing with the community and at the farmers market. If you know languages, you can talk to people and help them to understand the foods and stuff more with the more language that you speak, because you have a lot of people from different areas of the world that live here now.
What about technology?
Technology goes back to the marketing and social media, because that's how, our lives are based now. So you've got to be able to use the computer and phone and social media. And then, like, I use an electric milker instead of milking by hand. So that's something that's new to me this year. As far as the garden goes, I don't use a lot of technology in that. I still like to handwrite all my notes and stuff. So it's mostly business-wise that I use the technology, the newer technology.
Awesome. What advice would you give a student interested in this career?
So I would say start now. It's never too early. Even if you are 5 or 6 years old, you can learn how seeds grow. You can, plant in a pot, something like that. My son is 12 and he is already gardening in his own spaces and starting to do landscape work for other people because he has a passion for it. He helps with the animals. So just reading about the things that you like, reading about the different animals and the plants and learning that process, helping out your parents, joining 4-H, gardening clubs, taking different types of studies and focusing on like science and math. Any of those skills are going to help. And then when you get older, you can look for summer jobs on farms or doing landscaping or building or anything like that to gather skills for the future.
Cool. What type of starting position and salary would someone entering that field be likely to find?
So in North Carolina, the average for a farmhand is around $13.29 an hour. It depends on the scale of the farm. So smaller farms like me would be more likely, if I need to hire someone for part-time summer work, it's going to be more like $10 an hour. But I'm a very small scale. You can expect to make anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000, depending on what you farm. There are some small farms who do intensive farming in hydroponics where they grow in water, and they're doing very well with microgreens and hydroponic lettuces and stuff like that. And then your livestock animals tend to make more money, so like your beef cows and stuff like that. I am not there yet. I am not that intense yet, so I'm not a good person to ask for salary-wise. Because I do it for the love of it, not for the money.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have to depend on others in order to accomplish your job?
I have to depend on my husband to build things for me because I am not as handy carpenter-wise. So he builds a lot of like our chicken coops and our beds and stuff, like our garden beds and stuff like that. But otherwise, I do not. Otherwise, I do everything dealing with the animals and the garden and stuff myself.
Cool. Has technology changed your job? What can you see in the future?
The technology has changed in the fact that there's a lot of people who are like me, who are smaller scale farmers, who are making money via YouTube and via other technology things and sponsorships, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. So they do not have to rely on the money from their farms for their income as much as relying on the money from the technology side of it. That's not where I'm at, but that has kind of changed the small farmer industry because that has made being a small farmer more profitable than it used to be.
Right. And are there other industries or positions where you could work with your skill and expertise?
Yes, I could work for the agricultural department. I could work in teaching. I do a lot of like teaching canning and cooking and things like that to people in the area. I do some garden consulting for people who want to start raised bed gardens and things like that. I can also work in the marketing field because that's my background, as well as photography because I have owned a photography company for over 10 years. So, and I use those skills in conjunction with the farm to take pictures and put on social media and things like that. So I kind of combine all my loves into one. So I do have some other avenues that I could go down.
Yes, you are very handy.
I can't build anything, but I have my own set of skills.
I can build, and we make a great team.
Yeah.
Are there certain times of the month or year busier than other times for you?
Spring is extremely busy, and then fall is extremely busy because in spring you're putting all your seeds in the ground, you're getting all your gardens amended for the year, all the babies are being born, and then in the summer there's a period of the summer where it kind of slows down a little bit because you're not harvesting but you're not planting, and then in late summer, like July, all of a sudden everything starts coming in, and all the way through fall you're putting up things, you're selling, you're doing all the stuff. And then in winter it slows down a little bit, but that's when you're planning. So that's when I'm, sitting with a cup of coffee and buying seeds and planning what my garden's going to do and all the expansion and all the projects that my husband has to build for me and, all that stuff. So I stay pretty busy year round, but
So does he, sounds like.
yes.
What are the opportunities for advancement in this occupation?
I think the opportunities are just growing more, developing new products, developing new streams of income. A lot of small farmers who farm on my scale, they have multiple streams of income versus one main thing. Like we don't just do beef, we do chickens and plants and honey, and but there's other products that we can get into, and other avenues of business. Like I said, some people are making more money off of YouTube than they are their actual farm. So there's other areas that you can grow, and a lot of people will start promoting and selling products in conjunction with other companies because they use them, like the Vega garden beds and stuff like that. So there's areas that you can grow and advance and work with other companies to tie in and stuff like that.
Cool. What part-time jobs, internships, and extracurricular activities would best prepare you for this occupation?
Anything that involves plants and animals, summer landscaping, even mowing, things like that, because you learn the growth patterns of the plants. You learn how to keep weeds out of flower beds, stuff like that, which you'll need to do with garden beds, with the intensive raised bed method that I do. Let's see. Social media, working with someone who does social media marketing, sales, any sales job. You can even go work as
An LTD.
a retail person. It doesn't even have to be at a garden center. I mean, you could go work at Lowe's or something like that, dealing with the public and sales and dealing with the equipment and things that are behind the scenes, like selling tillers, selling, flower seeds, selling anything, sales and networking. And being, communicating and people skills, those are always going to be important, even if you're by yourself in your greenhouse with a goat. I mean, I still have to have people skills occasionally,
Well, thank you.
Okay, this is my sister, so I'm going to ask her some questions. So introduce yourself.
I am Tracy Temple with Wishbone Farm.
And where is Wishbone Farm?
It is in Pinnacle, North Carolina.
And how many acres do y'all work?
We own 60, we farm 120-ish.
Okay, and what is your primary thing that you farm?
Beef, goats, and hay.
Okay, and you also have bees, correct?
We do have bees.
So you do honey, beef
Yes.
cows,
Yes.
meat goats,
Correct.
and then hay fields.
Correct.
But you also garden and will sell extra produce.
We do garden and sell extra produce. We have about 3 acres in just vegetable gardens. So we will get probably 20 bushels of potatoes, and probably we'll have about 600 tomato plants.
And you also have a sawmill.
They
Correct.
can bring us the logs already delimbed, and we will cut them into lumber.
Okay. So it's mostly you and Dad who work this
Correct.
farm. And then your husband helps out when he's home on the weekends.
Correct.
He does a lot of the mechanical stuff.
Yes, he is the mechanic.
And then Mom helps out with a lot with canning and some of the gardening.
Correct.
And then I come and help out with some of the gardening.
Correct.
So you do have help, but it's mostly you and Dad. So what
Correct.
is a typical work day like for you and Dad?
We would get up, make sure the animals are okay, count everybody, make sure the coyotes or anything hasn't got the animals. then we would work in the garden till it gets too hot, and then we work inside, either in the shop or in the woodworking building. We'd like to get a building over the sawmill so we could work on that during the middle of the day when it's too hot, and then when it cools off we go back into the garden, unless it's hay season, and then it's all day cutting, tethering, raking, tractor work.
And then y'all actually just recently did that with spraying the fields with fertilizer. It was day in, day out until all the fields were sprayed.
Yes.
All right. What do you like best and least about your job?
Best is I get to be outside. I get to be around animals. I get to listen to nature. What I like the least is smelly sweat.
What led you to your current career and job?
Family. I was just raised this way.
How do you use math, reading, writing, business, technology, science, and foreign language skills in your daily work?
I use a lot of math. We have to figure out how many milliliters to give shots for antibiotics, for wormers. You have to figure out how many gallons of fertilizer per acre, and then how many gallons are in the sprayer of water. So, how many bags of fertilizer do you put in the per water?
Now, technology, y'all have actually switched over to some more computer-based hay balers and stuff like that.
Correct. 20 years ago, we would use a square baler, and it was all mechanical. We'd have to tighten down springs to tighten them up, square them up, get them to the weight we wanted. Now we do round bales, and we punch in. We want a 4-foot or we want a 5-foot roll, and how many times do we want it wrapped.
Okay. And this is Randy.
Dunman. Lived in Stokes County for 66 years, and born and raised here.
Awesome. And you farm.
I farm.
And you're farming, what did you just tell me, 190 acres plus 65?
Yeah, and probably a couple hundred acres of hay land.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you some of these questions. So what is a typical work day like for you?
Well, first thing I do, I get up and I feed the animals. All the cattle, go check the cattle, and then either I'm spraying the corn land right now. I'm spraying corn land, and trying to work on building a hay shed that's roughly 45 by 80 feet long. So pretty filled up.
Lots of various things. And what do you like best or least about your job?
Well, I like looking at the cows out in the pastures and, just riding around on the farm. and looking at things.
I think that's my favorite. We just did that at her place. What led you to your current career or job?
I growed up in it.
Okay. I think that's pretty typical around here.
Right.
What type of interests, abilities, and skills would help a person to be successful as a farmer?
Well, first, I would think working on a farm for a while to see if you really do like it. It's 7 days a week. 7 days a week. It's not no 8-hour day job, and sometimes you have to work when the hay season comes in. I mean, it's nonstop, and it's just I don't know. As far as the skills, you just you got to be a veterinarian. You got to be a veterinarian. You
Be a mechanic.
you got to be yeah, right.
Construction, mechanic.
Construction. You got to be a mechanic. You got to be a jack of all trades.
You got to do sales and marketing of your own stuff.
Right. Yeah.
What type of education or training? Oh, I just didn't know. This is a different one. Technical knowledge or experience is necessary, and I think that's kind of what we just covered. You need to be good with numbers and
Right.
Do you think you would
building.
need to go to college, like kids today would, if they wanted to get into it?
I would think that you would need to go to college for 4 years, 2 to 4 years. I would think just to learn about your pesticides, learn all kinds of
sold.
soil and all this,
So basic
Fertilizer.
agriculture.
and yeah,
Was it called an agricultural engineer now?
Yeah, I think
Something
so.
like that.
right.
How do you use math, reading, writing, business, technology, science, or foreign language skills in your daily work?
Well, I always you have to count. You have to count how many pounds of fertilizer you put in per acre. You really, as far as just like yesterday, I was baling wheat hay, and I was trying to count up how much I had in the wheat hay, and I had roughly $50 a roll in the wheat hay.
Those are pretty bales. I saw them.
So I tried to figure out.
Wow, that's a lot per bale.
Right, I try to figure out how I'm coming out the best.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have to depend on others in order to accomplish your job? Do you work in teams?
No, I try to do most of it myself. My son helps me some in the afternoon when he gets home, and I have got 2 or 3 grandkids growing up,
Aw.
so they're starting to help me some now.
Has technology changed your job? And what changes do you see in the future?
What changes I see in the future is in the beef. I don't know. I don't know if people's going to really eat as much beef as they used to eat, because a lot of people's eating chicken and they're changing around. So I'm basically into the beef
Right.
end of it.
What type of salary would someone entering this field be most likely to find? Can you ballpark something?
I'm going to say 80 to 100,000.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time
Okay.
so much.
So much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, and I hope everyone has learned a lot from this little video with all the different size farmers that we have interviewed today, and a glimpse at all of the different farms and techniques and equipment that we deal with on a daily basis. And
Awesome.
we'll see you later.
Awesome.